We're going to win because we're running on the issues that are really facing this country, and we're leveling with the American people. Ever since he stepped on the national stage, Donald Trump has been speaking directly to the frustrations and the aspirations of millions of Americans. Truth is, the American people are tired of being told. I mean, we're tired of being told that this is as good as it gets. We're tired of being told by politicians in both political parties that they'll get to solving those big, intractable problems tomorrow, but just can't get to them today. And frankly, we're tired of being told, as Ronald Reagan used to say, that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives better for us than we can plan them for ourselves. Donald Trump is the antidote to a Washington, D.C. that's been telling the American people how they're supposed to live their lives and how they're supposed to operate their businesses. He's going to fight for you every day. He's going to fight for the American people. You know, the worst example of media bias is it's incredible. The media goes chasing after, every little sentence, every little tweet that comes out of my running mate's mouth, and yet they ignore this avalanche of scandals coming out of the years where she was Secretary of State, and they had this private family foundation, and then she had this private server in between them to keep all of her information out of. I mean, Bob Woodward of Woodward and Bernstein, the Watergate journalist, said on national TV yesterday, he said it's not unseemly, the Clinton Foundation, it's corrupt. Bob Woodward said that. He did. I mean, we just heard in the last week, believe it or not, the Federal Bureau of Investigation confirmed that the State Department under Hillary Clinton actually offered a quid pro quo if they would allow her to change the classification standard on emails on that private server. That's the private server that after it was found out that she had one, she used high technology and hammers to try and get rid of all the emails. And we found out about a week ago that in the aftermath of the terrible earthquake in Haiti, that Hillary Clinton's State Department actually said that they should flag businesses that were, quote, friends of the Clintons for contracts to rebuild Haiti. Every other business that was bidding on it should have to go to the website. That's exactly the kind of pay-to-play politics she said wasn't going on when she was Secretary of State. And it's exactly the kind of pay-to-play politics that's going to come to a crashing halt when Donald Trump becomes President of the United States. Because Donald Trump has a plan. Bring honesty, accountability, and real change to Washington, D.C. Donald Trump laid out a 5-point plan, ethics reform in Washington, D.C. We're going to work with a newly reelected Republican majority in the Congress, and we are going to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. But Donald Trump's got a plan that goes far beyond that. It's a contract with American voters. He laid it out in Gettysburg just the other day, a 100-day action plan to make America strong again, to make America safe again. And the contrast between our plan and her record couldn't be more dramatic. So why don't we talk about that for a minute? Because the truth of the matter is that while the media goes chasing after various and sundry issues day to day, Donald Trump and I know this election really is about security. It's about prosperity. And it's about the highest court in the land. And we need to focus on those things in the 15 days that are waiting. So let's talk about it. Despite traveling millions of miles as our Secretary of State, it is undeniable. Despite the fact that she was the architect of the Obama administration's foreign policy, it's undeniable. The world is more dangerous today than the day that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama took over our foreign policy. Our allies are less secure. Our enemies are more emboldened. 7.5 years of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's foreign policy has weakened America's place in the world. History teaches us that weakness arouses evil. And the weak and feckless foreign policy of this administration, leading from behind, moving red lines, feigning resets with Russia, and paying ransom to terrorist-sponsoring states are all emblematic of a weak foreign policy. Let me make you a promise. When Donald Trump is president of the United States, we won't be paying ransom to terrorist-sponsoring states. They'll be paying a price. They'll be paying a price if they threaten to detain the American people. But on her record, it's important to know as you talk to your neighbors and friends, in the days that lie ahead, it was Hillary Clinton who failed to renegotiate what's called a status of forces agreement in Iraq. You know, I remember those hard days in Iraq. I was a member of Congress, supported our troops every step of the way. I remember those hard days in 2005, 2006. I traveled downrange to visit our soldiers 10 years in a row, every single year. More poignantly, Karen and I have stood at the graveside of the fallen with their families, and we've wept and we've prayed. I mean, history records that by the end of 2008, the American soldier won the peace and stability of the nation of Iraq. It happened through great sacrifice. You know, before I go one step further, I know there's men and women that have worn the uniform in recent years and recent conflicts and in the long distant past. Would you mind raising your hand or standing up if you're able and letting us thank you one more time? Our veterans, would you mind just letting us show our appreciation one more time? Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice of your families. You know, it was Hillary Clinton as well that initiated that disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran. She started it. They got $150 billion, those ransom payments. All we got was a delay. And now the leading state sponsor of terrorism is on track to obtain the most powerful weapons in the world. And lastly, it was Hillary Clinton. It was Hillary Clinton and her State Department who left Americans in harm's way in Benghazi. Never sent help. Never sent help. And after 4 Americans fell, she told the families of the fallen at Dover Air Force Base that it was because of a filmmaker back home, even though Congress was able to find out that she wrote a family member that night to say it was a terrorist-style attack. When she was questioned about it before the Senate, we all remember what she said of those 4 fallen heroes. Quote, "What difference at this point does it make?" And let me tell you, as the proud father of a United States Marine, anybody who said that, anybody who did that, should be disqualified from ever serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. You don't leave Americans in harm's way, ever. It's not just her lack of leadership, but under this last administration, we've hollowed out our military. The truth of the matter is that our Army has the lowest troop level since 1940. We've gone down from 36. We're on our way to 23 Marine Corps battalions. We have the smallest number of ships since 1916. Men and women, we cannot have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies, abandoning our friends, and reducing our military footprint in the world. For the world to be safe, for the American people to be safe, America needs to be strong. And Donald Trump will lead on the world stage with American strength. We will rebuild our military. We will restore the arsenal of democracy. We will provide our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines with the resources and training they need to accomplish their mission, and we will hunt down and destroy ISIS at its source. You know, that's probably why more than 200 retired Generals and admirals, including more than 20 Medal of Honor winners, have endorsed Donald Trump to be the next Commander-in-Chief of the United States. But you know, it's not just about security abroad. It's also about safety here at home. You know, I don't need to tell you all here in North Carolina, this has been a very challenging time for men and women who wear the uniform of law enforcement on the thin blue line. You know, it seems like when tragedy happens, when a law enforcement officer in essentially fulfilling their duties to protect us results in the loss of human life, there are too many in the American left and in the national media who are prepared to demean law enforcement broadly and paint with a broad brush before the facts are known. Would you all, there's a lot of law enforcement here tonight, would you all just mind showing the men and women in law enforcement just how much we truly do appreciate them and the job they do for our families each and every day. Thanks, everybody. You know, as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States, I'll make you a promise. A President Donald Trump will stand by the men and women in law enforcement across this country. We will provide the resources and the training they need to protect our families, go home safe to theirs, and we will restore law and order to every city and every community in this land. Hillary Clinton wants open borders. Donald Trump will end illegal immigration and remove criminal aliens from this country. Hillary Clinton wants to increase the Syrian refugee program by 550%. Despite the fact that our own Homeland Security says that we cannot know for certain who the people are that are coming into our country, Donald Trump will immediately suspend immigration from countries and territories compromised by terrorism. In a word, Donald Trump will uphold law and order and put the safety and security of the American people first every single day. You know, that's probably why the 330,000 members of the Fraternal Order of Police endorsed Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. But you know, it's not just about security and about safety. It's also about prosperity and the opportunities that we have in this generation and the next. You know, we're in the midst of the weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression. I mean, 1 in 4 Americans in their prime earning years isn't even working. We have the lowest labor participation rate since the 1970s. 1 in 5 households have no one with a job. 45 million Americans on food stamps. 47 million Americans living below the poverty line. Hillary Clinton's answer? More of the same. Not the same, more of the same bad ideas that have been stifling growth and jobs. Hillary Clinton wants to raise taxes by $1 trillion. She went up and gave a speech in Canada that we just got a chance to read not too long ago, where she said that she hoped someday to have a healthcare system in America just like Canada's. Socialized medicine. The war on energy, stifling regulatory state, more than $2 trillion in increased spending. More of the same bad ideas that have stifled the American economy. You know, they tell us this economy is the best that we can do. But you and I know here in North Carolina, it's nowhere near the best that we can do. It's just the best that they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we're going to put common sense, conservative principles into practice, and we're going to get this economy moving again. Because Donald Trump has a plan, and it's awful different from their plan. Instead of raising taxes by $1 trillion, we're going to work with a re-elected majority in the House and Senate. You're going to re-elect Senator Richard Burr from the great state of North Carolina. Re-elect your members of Congress, and we're going to cut taxes across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farms. We're going to end death taxes once and for all, and we're going to lower business taxes in America so companies in this country can compete and grow jobs here in the United States. When Donald Trump becomes president, he's going to do what I did back in the Hoosier State. Day one, we're going to sign a moratorium on any new federal regulation, and we're going to repeal every single unconstitutional executive order that Barack Obama signed. And Donald Trump and I know among the God-given blessings of this nation is our vast natural resources. So on day one of a Trump-Pence administration, the war on coal will come to a crashing halt. We're going to develop an all-of-the-above energy strategy and call forth the power of this nation by developing all of our resources. And when Donald Trump becomes negotiator-in-chief, you with me on that one? For the kids in the room, that's not in the Constitution yet. When Donald Trump becomes negotiator-in-chief, we're going to have trade. But trade is going to mean American jobs first. We're going to renegotiate NAFTA. We're going to get out of this TPP thing. We're going to hold our trading partners accountable to the promises they make to the American people. And lastly, we're going to address that issue. I was just mentioned. I didn't know if I told you I had some barbecue over at Stamey's. That's pretty good. really was. There's an employer over there at Stamey's. He said to me, Mike, he said, our healthcare costs went up 40% last year. He said, I got 35 employees and I wasn't able to give anybody a raise last year because of the rising healthcare costs. This story just broke. The Obama administration today just confirmed that premiums are going to go up sharply again next year with health insurance sold. Premiums increase they're expected to increase another 20% in the next year. So premiums are going up. Coverage is going down. Here in North Carolina, 284,000 people are looking for a new plan because Aetna and United Healthcare just said we're not involved. I mean, Bill Clinton actually called Obamacare the craziest thing in the world. You know, I guess even with the Clintons, occasionally truth happens. But that's not even the best of it. I mean, all these heartbreaking facts come out. Did you hear about President Obama talking about this the other day? You're going to think I made this up, and I didn't. President Obama, is the third anniversary of the rollout of Obamacare. Remember how well that went? Third anniversary, he goes down to Miami, true story. And he actually compared Obamacare to the Samsung Galaxy 7 phones, which have been known to spontaneously burst into flames. Sure he did. I'm not kidding. Here's the quote. This is President Obama, and apparently a line written by a former speechwriter. He said, when one of these companies comes out with a new smartphone and it has a few bugs, what do? They fix it, they upgrade it. Unless it catches fire, then they pull it off the market. Well, what a coincidence, Mr. President, because that's exactly what we're going to do with Obamacare. We're going to pull it off the market. We're going to repeal it lock, stock, and barrel, and we're going to replace it with health care reform that lowers the cost of health insurance without growing the size of government. Wow. So it's about security and safety. It's about prosperity. For men and women, maybe the most important issue has to do with the highest court in the land.
That's right.
The truth of the matter is, with the passing of the late Justice Antonin Scalia, the balance of the Supreme Court of the United States is literally on the ballot. I mean, it's extraordinary to think about it. I was at that debate the other night in Las Vegas. I had a front row seat. Karen and I were right there. Hillary got that first question about the Supreme Court. And I was checking my Timex over and over again because I just wondered how long it was going to take her before she mentioned the small matter of the Constitution of the United States. It took her every bit of 2 minutes. Go back and watch the tape. Literally. I mean, truthfully. I mean, elect Hillary Clinton as president of the United States, and you better get used to more unelected judges using unaccountable power to take unconstitutional action. She said her view was the Supreme Court should represent a certain viewpoint in America. Well, the truth is we have a representative portion of our government. I used to serve in it. I was a representative. A judge is appointed and sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States and settle disputes. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the judicial branch of government. The truth of the matter is, on this choice, I would submit to you it's never been more dramatic. So I would say to you, North Carolina, for the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of life, for the sake of our Second Amendment to the Constitution, for the sake of all of our God-given liberties, we must ensure that the next president who will make appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States will be President Donald Trump. You know, the choice could not be more clear. It's change versus the status quo. The other side tells us if you like your status quo, you can keep it.
I don't like it.
And they'll keep the promise this time. Americans can elect someone who literally personifies the failed establishment in Washington, D.C., or we can choose a leader who will fight every day to make America great again. That's the choice in this election. It's change versus the status quo. So before Karen and I slip away and fly back to the Hoosier State tonight, I got a couple things I want to ask you to do. Number one, vote. And vote early. I did my homework. The Guilford County Board of Elections is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is 2.6 miles away from here. Go from this rally, get up tomorrow and go cast your vote for real change, for Trump, Pence, for Richard Burr, for Governor Pat McCrory. Go and vote and bring a friend and family member with you. Let's get it done. Because I got other work for you to do the next 14 days. So get that done. Secondly, the second thing I want to ask you is go tell somebody. I mean, North Carolina, I know the media is trying to spin this thing and they're trying to say this thing's over. This is a one-point race in North Carolina.
That's right.
The truth of the matter is that after this avalanche of over a year of attacks in the national media coming against my running mate, the truth of the matter is the momentum continues to build in this election because of one reason and one reason only, and that is the American people are talking to each other. The American people are talking to their neighbors at worship and at work over backyard fences, and they're looking them in the eye and saying, it doesn't have to be like this. We can be strong again. We can be prosperous again. We can stand on our Constitution again. I really believe it. So you got to go tell somebody. I mean, get out. Get outside your comfort zone, all right? If you need a red hat, we'll get it for you. But get outside your comfort zone and walk up to somebody and tell them what the choice is in this election. And the thing about it is, I'm sure this never happens in North Carolina, but in Indiana sometimes, there's what we say is not a dime's worth of difference between the two people running. That's never happened here. But I'm here to tell you, this isn't one of those times. I mean, this is the most dramatic choice in a national election in my lifetime. I can't imagine in our lifetime it'll ever be more dramatic. My wife's favorite poet is Robert Frost. Yeah, there we go. Robert Frost fan. Well, you probably know the poem too. It's two roads diverged in the woods, and I took the road less traveled by. I mean, we're at a fork in the road here, people. And I would submit to you, it's kind of like what Reagan said back in 1964. This isn't a choice between left and right. This isn't even a choice between Republican and Democrat. This is a choice between up and down. I mean, when you go talk to your neighbors and friends, say, I ran into Mike the other day, and here's the way he put it. Okay? This is a choice of whether or not we're going to continue to go down the hill to a weaker America at home and abroad, to more military cuts, more emboldened adversaries and competitors in the world, a weaker and stifled American economy walking farther away from our most cherished constitutional ideals, or whether we are going to stop in North Carolina, plant our feet, turn around, and march back up the hill to a stronger America at home and abroad, a more prosperous America, and an America that cherishes our highest ideals. That's what this choice is. And you just got to tell somebody. It's up or down. And go tell them, and also, and tell, particularly I'll tell you, tell one group. Because the truth of the matter is, in this campaign, we've won over independents who are tired of corruption and the status quo in Washington, D.C. and want to see change. We've won over many Southern Democrats across North Carolina and across this country because they see the liberal policies flowing out of Washington, D.C. and the bad trade deals that have cost American jobs. But now if I can ask you specifically here in North Carolina, now it's time to reach out to all of our Republican and conservative friends and say with one voice, it's time to come home. It's time to come together to ensure that Hillary Clinton is never elected president of the United States. It's time for Republican voters to come home. Come home to vote for Trump-Pence, but come home as well to re-elect Senator Richard Burr and maintain a Republican majority in the United States Senate and the United States House. And come home and vote for Governor Pat McCrory to be re-elected to the State House in the great state of North Carolina. Everything I've talked to you about today, that contract with the American voter, only gets done if we got both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue. So get out there and tell your neighbors and friends, the Republicans all, it's time to come home. And lastly, I would say you have faith. We got about 14 days left in this deal. And I want you to leave here tonight with confidence. And draw your faith from two places. Donald Trump said it well in Gettysburg the other day. He said, quote, we need to rise above the noise and the clutter of our broken politics and embrace the great faith and optimism that has always been central to the American character. Now, Donald Trump is a man of faith. Faith in God and faith in the American people. And Donald Trump and I believe that if all of us will do all we can to communicate this moment to our neighbors and friends, the American people will make America great again. And lastly, there's that other kind of faith that I just encourage you to exercise if it's a part of your heart and your life. You know, if you do like Karen and I do from time to time, if you bow the head and bend the knee, be a good time to do it in the next 14 days. And you You know, and I'm really not talking about praying for one particular outcome or not. This time I'm just talking about pray for our country. Abraham Lincoln probably said it best when he was asked whether he thought God was on his side. He said, I rather concern myself more with whether we're on God's side. So let's pray for our country. Let's pray for our country. And do so with confidence, because I believe with all my heart what's been true for millennia is still true today. That if his people who are called by his name will humble themselves and pray, he'll do like he's always done in much more challenging times in this great nation. He'll hear from heaven, and he'll heal our land. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So North Carolina, we got 14 days. The choice is clear. I want you to leave here today, find a time to get down that street 2.6 miles and vote. Go tell somebody and have faith. Because I truly do believe, and I'm here to tell you, that man is ready. This team is ready. This movement is ready. If you go out and make sure that North Carolina is ready, we will make Donald Trump the 45th President of the United States of America, and he will make America great again. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Let's go get it done, North Carolina.